You're now broadcasting to everyone.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Dave Baldini. I'm calling to order this meeting of the Newcastle Planning Commission for November 16th. And if I could get a roll call, we'll start. Jonathan.
Jonathan Justice, present.
All right, John. John Laverty.
Yeah, present.
All right, Vera.
Present.
Gail.
Present.
Aaron.
Present.
Joe.
Present.
Bill.
Present.
Great. We have 8 of the 9 members. We have enough for a quorum, and we have enough to do some business, of which we'll start with the minutes. Any questions or comments on the minutes from the last meeting? And if not, can we get a motion?
Moving. Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. The next item, since we've moved past the comprehensive plan, that item is kind of sliding from the agenda. But in the commissioner's comments, which is the next item on the agenda, I have followed up on that, and there have been no comments from any of the agencies as of this moment, which is kind of early for them. They had 20 days. We submitted it to everybody, I think, on the 29th. So they will have at least until after Thanksgiving before it comes back. But I was kind of crowding the calendar, seeing if we could get something so we could keep the motion going, but not as of yet. The second thing I've got is I sent you notices on the Bike Delaware workshop, the virtual workshop. Did you all receive that? It's good for us in the sense that you got 3 of the state's 8 sites being looked at. Also, 2 of the 3 happen to be in the traffic study, I'm guessing. Is that right, Gail?
I'm sure they will be.
Okay. And Harris Corner being on the edge of the city, I'm sure that'll have some influence as well, because it's, but at least they've been flagged. That will run, maybe be some inputs to the traffic study, but I wanted you to be aware of it. The other thing is it's an all day kind of scenario. So it's kind of one of those deals where you'll plug in and see if this, is it our time or is it not our time? I don't know about you folks, but I know I don't have all day for somebody else's traffic problem. So if I find a schedule of who's talking what when, then I'll send it off to you all so that you can plug in. But I'll keep my eye out on that. And then the third thing that we've got, the city is starting into their early stages with the downtown development, this downtown district development program. And so they're starting to gather some information. I don't have much more than what I just said. I'll plug into that to see what they've got and how it's coming together, and then how we can tie that information into what we're doing, or vice versa, so that we're not running 2 separate tracks, because their business development activities will tie into what we have as economic development in what we have in the plan. Just again, to what we had talked about, keeping things interlocked as we go forward. So as I find out things, I'll forward that to you as well. And there were the 3 that I had. Gail, do you have anything that you can add to the transportation plan? I know we were doing just very, very early stages on that.
It's still very early stages. Council approved members of the advisory committee at the council meeting on Tuesday night. And John Lafferty from the Planning Commission will be on the advisory committee for the transportation study along with myself. We really tried to get representation from all the different areas and all the different neighborhoods. So I think we did a pretty good job in that, but council did approve the advisory committee. I just heard that I think our first meeting will be December 7th, but I don't have any more specific information yet.
Is that like Pearl Harbor Day? Is there something significant there?
I don't know.
Just ask. All right, that's good. So John, do you want to tell us a little bit about some of the electric cars and chargers kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been looking into this. Took a walk around town today to see how things are progressing. Looks like the parking lot is done. They've got the lights in and everything. Lights are on. And I was giving thought to that. Of course, you want to take first step. I think we're going to have to take is have an electrical load analysis looked at, like can the existing infrastructure support the chargers. We're looking at putting in what are known as level 2 chargers, which require a 240 volt hookup, like an electric dryer, much as say maybe upwards of a 50 amp circuit. So that's in excess of what the way the existing, say, I suggested before, maybe incorporating them into the lamppost in the historic areas, so they're a little less obtrusive. So we have to look at things like that. I would suggest as a first step after the study's completed is say a preliminary pilot rollout in the new parking lot. Because Dave, I think you said, to your knowledge, that it's wired.
In some early conversation I had with Pam Patone, they were looking at that, getting some of that in there.
Okay.
For just that reason, where do you want to put it? Where do you want to try it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think we can talk with the commission there and see where they are and how they would feel with that. Because again, that's nested in the historic district. So as painful as that was for the historical commission to have that parking lot there, I think we need to what you're saying, be unintrusive in anything we put there for radical moves into the future.
Yeah, as you know, I've looked at it. If you've seen charge points, one charge point is a really good solution for the charge, because it's kind of a Swiss Army knife type solution where it will charge any kind of electric car, plug-in hybrid, so forth. But if you see them, go on our website, they're not exactly, if you want to talk about preserving the historic character of the town, they're kind of, like I said before, it look like something out of Star Trek. But on the other hand, if we make them too hidden, are people going to know they're there? So if you hide them. There's a good example of one over on East 2nd Street. It's an outlet that was installed in one of the Horsehead hitching posts. And it looks pretty, it's got a cable, which is kind of unsightly, but that can come off, but it's pretty well hidden. But the issue with that is if you're installing that kind of a solution for the public and they come in, they're going to see it and not realize, hey, it's an electric charger right there. So maybe, I don't know, maybe a placard of some sort could be installed that would make that known. Of course, along with that, you would need the interface to activate it and be charged for it. It's a lot like if everyone's familiar with the new coinless parking meters where you use your smartphone to set it up and to pay. It's the same. These chargers work the same way. So things like that have to be considered. So yeah, it's going to be a balance. You can find a solution that won't be too outrageous and in your face, more in tune with the historic character of the town. It might not be as big an issue in the parking lot because it's not out on the street, it's out in front of the courthouse. Yeah, things like that have to be looked at. I also want to look at to see what other municipalities have done. I assume as far as the billing would be done to the Municipal Services Commission, since they already handle the electricity in town. But yeah, there are things we want to do first. I think the first step is, of course, see what they've done in other towns where they've rolled this out and how they've gone about it, the obstacles they may have encountered and so forth.
Okay.
John, you have a tricky problem.
Mhm.
Because if you were referring to the Third Street parking lot, the new one, right?
Yes.
Okay. You're going to want to indicate somehow to people entering the lot looking to park that certain spots are preferred for electric. And you're trying to make it as unobtrusive as possible, so there's no indication to the public that that's what it's for,
Mhm.
if you can. And there's certainly nothing that's there to enforce it. I mean, people are going to park where they're going to park.
Yeah.
Unless you go the other direction. And the little stations that they have at the Wawa out on 13, all in a row, they really certainly do the job, and they're their own best advertisement for what they're there for. So, you know, normally you just wouldn't pull in and park there because it's clear that it's for charging electric cars. I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah, yeah, and I was part of my reason to suggest the parking lot as the initial installation, because I think in a parking lot we could have perhaps 2 spots to start that it would be reserved or quasi-reserved for electric vehicles. That would be something that would be difficult to do on the public street. I think it would be some objections to that, and for enforcement would be a question. But as you say, in the Wawa, they're very well. There's no mistake. Spots are there for the electric cars, and they're very, very well advertised. And I think that's why our parking lot is a good starting point, and we could go from there.
I do too,
Mhm.
but just be prepared. You're going to generate more letters to the editor.
I know this is going to be a challenge.
But I think it's
Good
an
luck.
ideal
You stuck your
opportunity.
neck out on this one.
Yeah.
It's an ideal opportunity to study the behavior of how different motorists are going to approach this. Like you say, if it's the only slot there, whether they got a electric car or not, they're going to park and
Yeah.
whatever.
There's a term for that. A regular car parks in an electric spot. You got iced. Internal combustion iced. There was a video of a Tesla. I don't know if it looked like it might have been staged. It was a Tesla. You know how much torque those things have, the electric motors, pulling a big pickup out of a spot so it can get in there. So yeah, it should be interesting. It's because we'll be seeing a lot more. I've also taken like a cursory look around town to see how many EVs are out there. There's one gentleman, I believe he lives in town, has a black Model 3. There are not a lot of them yet, but like I say, it's coming. We'll be seeing a lot more. So we got to get ahead of it.
Well, I definitely think too, though, that if we have the charging stations, at least that'll give residents the option. I'm sure that there's a lot of residents now that are not even thinking of the possibility of an electric car because of what it would do to their front sidewalk or running the cable and all that.
Mhm.
So at least it'll give people the option if they want to purchase one.
Sure.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, they're coming into town. They're in the town. They're coming and then you got GM saying that's the way they're going. You got trucks that are going to go that way. So I think it's like we say, it's time to get in front of it. Jonathan, tell me about 5Gs, man.
I'm not sure that that it's a straightforward enough issue that I even understand it, much less that I could explain it concisely. The reason I had mentioned it when you started talking about electric vehicle charging stations last month is that my understanding is, and I know this from magazine articles and web pages only, um, that the technology requires the figure I saw today was 6 to 12 times as many antennas as the current cell phone service, which means that the telecom companies will be wanting to put a lot of these antennas in many places where there aren't antennas now. They're not as big as current antennas, but they're big enough to be in the way and not very attractive. So the advice I'm seeing is that municipalities should try to develop a standard set of regulations that applies to all kinds of street furniture and utility pole attachments, partly as a way to be ready when the companies want to locate equipment, and also as a tactical matter because the FCC engaged in a fair bit of preemption. So you need to be legally very careful, but this is all way above my
Well,
beyond my expertise.
you've already got some things in there that have got my antennas up. I mean, if we need more towers as we go this way, I mean, we had enough problems with the antennas that we put down on the landing. And you can only disguise those but so much. So if we have more, and municipal services are not going to let let antennas up on the water towers anymore. So to that point, we're going to run out of locations quickly. I look at it from the fact of, okay, if this again, likewise, is the way the world is going, do we have the capacity now? I look at it from what's been happening with the virus. You've got more and more people doing Zoom meetings and those kinds of things. You got telemedicine now going hot and heavy. You got so much bandwidth that you can play with, and then what happens next? And then I go back with like these with the computers and everything. They make improvements in the software, then suddenly you got to upgrade the computer to handle the software, and then the software upgrades again. You're playing catch up all the time, and so and I'm no different than with the communications thing. And again, to me, as I started to think about it, I got wrapped around the axle very quickly, and I had no idea which way to go. So and I'm not even sure which group in town to talk to. I mean, it's not going to be municipal services until you get to their poles, their telephone poles, and things of that nature. So
That's me, Marika. Put me on mute.
Another country heard from.
I apologize. I can't find the mute button for his thing. It's not giving me.
So yeah, I think this another one is another one of those issues that we've got to try and get our hands around. Maybe we could create the straw man that says, okay, we gotta consider these issues and then just start to work from that. I know it's not going to be a solution that's going to be probably in the next 6 or 8 months, but it's if we attack all of the possible elements of it, it's like a Rubik's cube of questions, and then maybe we can get out in front of this again.
Well, I guess maybe they wouldn't care as much as we would. I was going to suggest until I realized that maybe it doesn't make that much sense, that it might be something just to get the city council to be concerned with, just in that it, to the extent it matters, it's going to involve a complex knot of actors, because some of it's Jeff Bergstrom's turf, some of it's going to be legal. If municipal services owns the utility poles, then municipal services becomes involved. And if the towers need to be numerous enough, that service to the historic district would require a tower in the historic district, and the Historic Area Commission would care.
Yep.
And in practical terms, we're probably not going to be the first place in Delaware that the telecom companies want to roll this out. So we've got a little more time than say Greenville or or the Wilmington city center. But when they decide to come to Newcastle, they're going to go where the money is, which means the historic district first. So.
Yeah, and the commission is already, the municipal services is already talking with the telecommunications people about putting the wires under, on Delaware Street underground. So,
and one of the things I did read is that the FCC preemption makes it impossible for local governments to force the telecoms to put their service underground.
Whoops. So I think, I guess need to have some idea which conversations we kind of want to start first, but council should be part of it too. Because again, to what you're saying, they negotiate the agreements with the telecommunications company. Jeff's involved as far as his part of the basket. And then we have everybody else. We just need to make sure that we are plugged into everybody everywhere as we go forward with this. So, I'm going to leave it to you. You tell it. Give us. You control the compass as to where we should start, what direction, kind of thing.
You're talking to me?
Yeah.
I have no clue. This is I absolutely completely lack the record.
All right. All right. And we can. Let's see. I'll start. I'll start with Jeff. How's that? I'll go to Jeff and say, all right, Jeff, we got this issue, and so where do we start? Let's see what he's got.
That probably is. He's probably the
Because he's drawn from several different neighborhoods. I know he's involved in Newark and he's involved in other places. So at least give us an idea of where to ask the questions.
And in fact, Newark is likely to be dealing with it before we are, because they've
University.
There'd be more of a market for this service in Newark than there is in Newcastle.
Okay, I'll start with Jeff then. Bill, Joe, in our conversations with the city, as far as the changes that we would like to have, as far as drawing packages and stuff like that, same kind of thing. How do we want to start? How do we want to kind of go forward with it? I know we talked about before laying the county requirements over what we have in the city.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. What we need is a new chapter 212.
Okay.
And what I would do is, I've spoken to Joe briefly about this. I'd model it after Newcastle County's land development chapter. Same kind of a section, speaks directly to what it is that we require. I've read it over there, and I just need to mark it up to make it conform to our peculiar needs, but by and large, the document works very well. So what I'm proposing is that I simply mark it up, and the issue would be who produces the final product, because I don't mind composing it and marking it up at all.
Mhm.
But I don't do word processing. I don't know how to do it.
Now, we can ask, we can work with Jeff and maybe have some, and Bill to get someone on staff to help us.
Okay,
Because it'll probably, when we're done, we're gonna have to end up going in front of Dan Losco to get his input
Okay.
on the code changes.
then I will commence to do that right away. And hopefully have something ready for whoever's going to produce it in short order.
Mhm.
And then when they're done, my vision is that it would be circulated to the commissioners and to Jeff for their comments
Mhm.
prior to presenting it to council,
Mhm.
so that we have a finished product to show to them. The reasons why are patently obvious, and I think that we have talked about that with certain members of council. I don't know about council as a whole, but they're certainly aware of it. And that's it in a nutshell. I mean, it's very easily done. There will be things in there that don't necessarily, are not apparently germane to Newcastle as opposed to Newcastle County. But the fact is that you have to have it global enough to anticipate future uses that we just got finished talking about one. You know, what do you do with your charging stations? I mean, there's all sorts of things that you can't anticipate. So the language has to take that into account. But other than that, it's a pretty simple exercise.
Okay.
And I would recommend that as a course of action. And I'm sure that council or whomever is going to want to show it to their general counsel. That's fine. I could, you know, I'm sure that that's exactly what they will do. But we'll wait forever if we just have them do it, starting from scratch. So that's the way I would proceed.
Does that work for everybody else? We good with that?
That was great.
All right. And that's kind of what we'll do. That's
Okay.
kind of what we'll do. Joe, I know we talked before, or in the notes that we've had, you talked about the sewer systems and things of that nature, that infrastructure as being part and parcel of it.
That's a different chapter.
Okay. So should we be looking at that as well?
Could we do that as well?
Do we
You
want
don't
to
have
do
to. There's a chapter totally devoted to stormwater and sewer system, and you know, they're all broken out separately. This specifically is the generic approach for land development in your municipality, county, whatever. And that's what we'll be tackling. And that's what we've never had, and you know, which is why the Garrison was done as a subdivision, which I still can't get over. But you know, the subdivision is there for subdivisions. It's a specific chapter intended, you know, to do planned residential freestanding homes in a development. we want to account for everything else when we do this.
So I think one of the things that David is referring to there is there's kind of like one thing that we want to do is go through and make sure all the drawing requirements are up to date and revised. But I think one of the other things we may want to do, which is what I think he's referring to, is right now in the city code for the different types of plans, it gives you a list of the other agency approvals that are needed. So I think most of the other agency approvals are there. However, there's some other things that aren't there. And if you remember when we were talking about the Johnson Way parking lot, I had asked if there was a stormwater maintenance agreement between the owners of the industrial park, which at this time there's not. But things like that should be included in the general requirements for some of these subdivision plans to be approved. So I think in another light, we just need to look at the other requirements and approvals that are needed from agencies and to make sure that they're up to date too, besides the drawing requirements. But I think the drawing requirements is probably what we need to do first.
Okay.
Is that kind of where you were going, David?
Yeah,
I think that's what you're saying.
The drawing requirements, I think, is absolutely critical for things that I know are coming our way. And for us to try to make some informed decision, I think we need all the cards on the table here. But then to that same point, every time I know as I stumble through the code on different issues, there's always a weak spot or there's something there that's not there. You know, things that and I don't mean that in a negative connotation, but in the fact that when they first did it, they weren't thoughts in the process. And then as the world's changed, technology's changed, whatever, these things become more and more required. And like I say, if we're going to go into it for drawing packages, and let's take a peek at what else is in there and then look at that as well. And again, it's not the push to get it all done the next 6 days, but it's got to be addressed. And so we might as well, as we're coming out of the comp plan, let's just keep marching and take care of the next item on the agenda kind of thing.
Well, I hear you, but that's in the normal course of a chapter like this. It will speak to getting approvals and plan designs and all those things approved before you can proceed as part of the process. That in fact is entirely the point. It's why we really, I think if I had to guess, and I don't know, because I don't have enough experience in this town, but I would guess that it's all between Jeff's ears that these things were done. And that he realized, you know, I need this, this, and this. You know, I need a stormwater solution. I need sewer, electric. You were just talking about obtaining electric and the ability to go underground. You know, that's part of it is you have to get will serve letters from all utilities and have them describe the nature of the service. And by the way, they'll never go underground. Just, we can forget that. That's a thing of the past. Utilities companies, if you want to do it on your own site, fine. But when they bring it to your site, it's going to be above ground because that's what they're responsible to maintain. They don't want to have to trench and repair.
Yeah.
Simple as that. So, yeah, all those things should be anticipated in this ordinance.
Okay. Then let's proceed down that path.
Well, you know, a typical, now, it has to be written so that if somebody wants to build a freestanding single-family home like was done, I think it was Diascanis did one over on, I'm going to guess 9th Street. Very
They did
nicely.
one on- they did
I mean,
one
he
on
shouldn't
7th.
have to go-
Yeah.
He shouldn't have to go through all this nonsense with, you know, at great expense. That's not the point here. But you did mention, David, that we know what's on the horizon.
Right.
And they should have to go through all the expense. These things need to be thought out and approved and have stamped plans ahead of time.
I think it's got to be done, so we might as well get started, kind of thing.
Yes.
I mean, it's the
Okay.
only way we're going to protect the neighborhood, you know, from ourselves. Keep what we got and go forward at the same time. So, what other issues do we have that we want to bring out?
David, I have a question. In the comp plan,
Mhm.
Assuming it's going to be accepted soon, one of our overarching goals and strategies is to have someone from the city or a group to make sure that we are making forward progress on the comp plan, which has not really been done in the past. And I'm just wondering how we ensure that that happens.
But to that same point, we put in one of the, I think the recommendations in that plan was to sit down annually, because we have to do the annual report. And that is to sit down annually with the city as far as then creating the budgets and or the things that we want to address in the coming year. Because the priority that we have with the plan may be also in conflict with something else that they have and those kinds of issues where we sit down and talk. And I'm guessing that would happen like in a February timeframe because the budgets are due in June. So we could start to look at sitting down with them in February, starting to do some of the schedule of the things that we have in the plans of the things we want to accomplish, much to what we just talked about, whether it's the drawing packages and things of that nature, because that's going to have the legal expense involved in, as well as the administrative expense of getting things done. Studies that we want to do as well. You got the traffic study. So if we want to carve out something extra in that, then that gets to be, you know, work and cash that's got to be considered. So I think as we can start to work that with them directly, like in the February timeframe, and we just put that as a calendar an action item on the calendar for us to do. So we make sure that we get done that part of it, and then we have the report in June that we're able to do that on time, because that historically has not been done on time.
Right.
It's always done as a reaction to the notice we get, like, where is it?
Yes.
So if we can clean up some of that, then I think we can stay on top of it.
It sounds like a good idea to have a monthly schedule or a schedule of things that we need to do throughout the year
Mhm.
to make sure that we're moving forward.
Well, we'll set that out and create that schedule, and then we can drop into it month to month, the things that we want to get done, and so nothing drops in the cracks. Because it's a pretty aggressive plan that we've got, so it won't be hard to lose things.
Right.
On a lot of funds. What else do we have that we need?
Mr. Chairman, can we ask Jeff Bergstrom to give us an update on the parking lot at 1401 Johnson's Way? Obviously, they're using the parking lot and the parking aspect is in, but I haven't been there in at least a week or two, but there was no landscaping in the last time. So now I'm guessing they're going to kick the can to the springtime, but I'd rather hear that from Jeff and make sure that this is actually going to happen and the landscaping is going to be installed.
Okay. I'll send him a note, and then maybe we'll have him in the next meeting. And have the update, or if he can give it to us in a paragraph, that'd be fine too. I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission? All right, then we will do the public comment.
Okay, you have, let's see, Mario, apologize if I kill the name. Genjimi, we have George Valetsakakis, we have Philip Gross, who is raising his hand, and Nick Ferrera.
Okay, bring the first one in, whoever that may be.
I will bring in George, I will bring in Philip Gross.
Okay,
Mr. Gross, you're now in the meeting.
he's muted.
Mr. Gross, you're muted.
Better?
There you
Better.
go.
Better.
Thank
Mr. Gross, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you guys?
Good so far.
Thank you again, as I always do, for putting up with me and pushing on and doing your best for the city. It's greatly appreciated. I guess my comments sort of were put through, but I firmly believe that a charging station, just like with sanitation units, can be put in a historical area where they're not looking like, just like you mentioned about the Wawa charging stations, like George Jetson Towers. But I firmly believe that a good placement out of events fencing areas would be by the City Hall for 2 spots. I really do not believe that the 3rd Street parking lot would be a good space. If anything, if you want to put additional ones to spread it out, I think down by the tennis courts may be there, or further down where people park to walk on the trail along the water. So again, placement, just a suggestion. As far as timing, I've looked into it for a couple of other areas. As far as the financing, it's on a decreasing scale for some reason. I guess the state or government wants to incentivize where you're going to try and get stations in now rather than put it off and wait for a better fruit to grab. So trying to push it sooner than later would be good. And like I put, as far as underground wiring, I've been involved since I supply lighting to a lot of developers. Basically, any add-ons or things that the municipality has pushed on them as far as part of beautification and different things that make sense, it's up to them how they want to pay for it. They want to foot the bill, which most don't. They'll add a couple $1,000s to each house, and they'll sell it that way. But sidewalks and underground wiring sells a development. Plus, you have less outages. So again, work on it. I appreciate you factoring that in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Who's next, Marika?
I'm going to bring in George Valetsakakis. Just give me a
Okay.
moment.
Hi, George.
Hey, guys.
Welcome.
Thanks. I didn't have any comments tonight. I was just listening in. That's all.
All right, well, we appreciate it. Appreciate you coming by.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
And then Mario and Nick both said they're just listening.
Okay,
And that's all I have over here.
all right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank the public for participating here. I have no other businesses. That being said, is there a motion?
Well, first you have to recognize that this is my first Zoom meeting.
I apologize for that. It has been refreshing.
Yeah, it's great to see your face, Bill.
You've done
I have
well.
officially joined the digital age.
You have done well. Crash course into the new
Actually, it
world.
was my wife who did everything. I'm just sitting here.
Tell her we much appreciate her efforts to get
All
you
right, thank you.
into the 21st century with us. Do we have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
And the second is there, I heard. So, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Thank you all. Have a good night. Stay safe. We'll see you
Bye-bye.
next time.
You too. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye now.
Thank you.